Hallo, guten Tag, wie geht's? Und willkommen to Matt and Cheryl's Gen Excellent Playlist. I'm Matt.
I'm Cheryl. Cheryl Bodensteiner.
Cheryl Bodensteiner Bots, and I'm Matt Richert. And we're going global. We're going European here. We're going to talk about German New Wave, or as it's known in Der Vaterland, Neue Deutsche Welle, which produced two big hits in the United States in 1983, both of which we like and we'll be talking about today. But it was a far bigger scene than just the two that crossed over here. It became, really by 1983, Neue Deutsche Welle, German New Wave, was the preeminent popular music in Germany, by far the most popular music. It started out as a grassroots movement, kind of a turn of the decade, 79, 1980. And then by 83, it was a full-blown popular proposition, even crossing over to these shores. Now, the two songs we're going to talk about are going to be familiar to most people. What I find interesting, these are German acts that had hits in the United States and English-speaking countries with both German language and English language versions of the same song. The two songs we're going to focus on today, we're going to talk about the scene at large, and Cheryl, bless her heart, has done a deep dive and has become infatuated with German. This is fun for me because we both have German heritage in our families. Obviously, on your father's side, your maiden name, Bodensteiner.
Yeah.
I have German heritage on both sides of my family. Neither of us have ever been. You've never been, right, to Germany?
I've been.
Oh, you have?
A long, long time ago in 1987.
Okay.
On a volleyball tour.
So where did you go in Germany?
Memmingen was the village where we stayed. And we actually stayed with families there. We did Russia, Hungary, Finland, and we ended up in Germany.
See, now I remember when you first started working at Silver Platters, I used to have this Finland sweatshirt, and you remarked about that you'd been there on this tour. Yeah.
Well, it hadn't been that long after that, because that was like 1990, I think, when we worked together.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been to Finland a couple of times, but never to Germany. I've been wanting to go to Germany for a long time, but haven't made it yet.
I feel like I just spent the last 2 weeks in Germany, okay? Although I don't understand a word anyone is singing about.
Yeah, neither of us speak the language much. I took a year of German in college, but it was like toward the end. And at this point, I'm focused on my major, and this was just an elective class. I would basically put in enough effort to make sure I passed. So we're going to have to virtually visit Germany with this episode. I'm impressed with the work that you've put in here. You've really taken a deep dive here and have become kind of smitten with this whole scene.
The music is right in my wheelhouse because it started from post-punk, and especially like the New York punk scene and what was happening at that time, and with like the no wave movement. And I really like that stuff. It's a little more avant-garde. It's got like, horns and more dissonant rhythms. And then as it goes on, it becomes more pop oriented and more what we would consider new wave and synth pop. The two songs that we're going to do, I've always really liked, but I had never delved into any other artists or any, in this genre at all. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I really like this stuff. To me, the biggest thing would be if I like it, despite not having any clue at all what they're singing about. The sound of the German language, there's something about it that makes it sound even cooler in a way, despite having no clue what they're actually singing about. But it's just like the way that the words sound when they're singing them, I think just kind of adds another dimension that's cool about it. And not all of the stuff I listened to I liked, and it was mostly because the music isn't as interesting. So I feel like it's not as interesting to listen to this because I don't know what they're singing about. I don't know what they're saying. So I need the lyrics to kind of like make it more interesting. But I found a lot of stuff that I enjoyed having no clue what they were singing about.
So the two songs that were hits in the United States, 99 Luftballons, 99 Luftballons, or 99 Red Balloons in the English version by Nena, and Major Tom, Coming Home by Peter Schilling. So both those songs are available in German language and English language versions. 99 Luftballons. The German language version was the big hit in the United States. The English language version, not so much. It was a bigger hit in England and Canada, but not in the United States. Whereas Peter Schilling's song, which I definitely prefer in the English language version.
I do too.
Was the hit in English in the United States. In fact, the whole album was re-recorded. I'm already forgetting the German title, but Error in the System is the English title. It was released as a German language album in 1982 and then re-recorded in English here. So maybe I'm remembering incorrectly here, but it seems to me that I would have picked up on the English version of 99 Red Balloons first, even though that came out later. I could be misremembering this, but I feel like I heard the English language version a lot more than the German version, even though I definitely prefer the German version. That was the version that was the hit in the United States.
I saw the video more than anything else.
Yeah.
And that would have been the English version. So that's really where I was hearing this song the most. I don't know if it was in the time. I mean, it probably wasn't in 1983. May have been 1984.
Yeah. Now, the band is Nena, but the singer is also Nena. The band is kind of named after her pet name. Her name's Gabrielle Kerner.
And, she really wanted to be considered part of the band, right? She didn't want herself to be known as just like Nena with the band backing her. She wanted to be considered a member of the band.
She tried. she tried that.
Although naming the band after you makes it difficult for that to happen.
So I guess a lot of the band were big Rolling Stones fans. If you go on YouTube, there's a live clip from 83 as they're getting big, and she's sporting a Rolling Stones tank top.
Yeah.
But the writer of the song, I think it was the band's keyboardist, Carlo Cargis, was at a Rolling Stones concert. They released a bunch of balloons in the air, and he started thinking to himself, because they're in Berlin, the band's from Berlin. And if you don't know Berlin, the city was a divided city within a divided German country. So Berlin actually sits more on the East German side, which is the communist side. But there's a west side of the city that is free, and East Berlin was, under communist rule. So he's at this Rolling Stones show, and they release the balloons. He starts thinking to himself, what if these balloons floated over the wall and the powers that be on the other side confused them for enemy planes, and it set off World War III. And that's kind of the genesis and the theme of the song. 99 Luftballons, it translates directly as air, Luft, air, balloons. So there's no mention of red balloons in the German version of the song. That's something that the British guy who translated the lyric for the English version came up with that on his own.
And actually, that's interesting that I found in both of these songs that we're doing is that they're not direct translations from the German, and the English lyrics are actually written by other people. I mean, it's close, but it's not a direct translation.
Yeah, he got the gist of the theme of the song and then wrote lyrics that rhymed, that sounded
right, because
good.
it had to sound, it had to make sense while singing it in English.
The English version is fine. It's not like I think the German version is much superior, but there's one line in particular that always rankled, and I think you know where I'm going here. Scurry, call the troops out in a hurry.
I always thought she was trying to say scary, but she was doing it with a weird accent, like scurry.
Scurry.
Yeah.
Oh, those scary red balloons.
Yeah.
But it's good that you had an English language version, because then you kind of, when you hear the German, you don't necessarily understand every word that's being said, but you understand what the song's about, generally, from having heard the English version.
Yeah.
But I don't know, the German just works better. And the song's really arresting because it has that long instrumental opening and it changes direction. And apparently they were very inspired by the electro sounds coming out of New York at the time. And that's kind of what inspired the kind of funky instrumental bit at the open. And then there's that
like Suicide. There's a couple bands I've heard that are definitely influenced by Suicide and Alan Vega. Yeah.
And then it changes direction instrumentally and goes to more of that driving rock sound. And it just grabs you before the lyrics really start.
At the beginning, when it's all slow, there's lyrics during that part. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Then it goes boom, bum, 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 bum. Then it goes into that cool riff that is super catchy. The so catchy.
And she really has a really great voice too. Warm voice, warm vocal tone. And, as much as she wanted to make sure everybody knew Nena was a band, it wasn't just her. Clearly, she's the star attraction here. She's the visual focal point. Her voice is the most arresting thing. And the band itself, when you watch them live, they're pretty amateurish. They're not great musicians.
Well, I definitely caught on to that more in their live videos. On the album, I actually really didn't think that until you
Yeah,
mentioned it live. Then I was like, yeah, they don't sound great and they do seem pretty amateurish, but
yeah.
I didn't get that on the album. I actually think the album is really good.
It's well produced, but I mean the musical parts are not particularly complicated. And then in the live bit, she jumps behind the drum kit, and I think outdoes the drummer, who is her boyfriend, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, she's a pretty kick-ass drummer.
Yeah,
She
I
wants to
thought
be
so.
a drummer.
But this song really fit the tenor of the times because, again, we're in this very cold part of the Cold War. There's this nuclear dread all around the world, and they're right there, ground zero, next to the Berlin Wall. So they're in the shadow of the Soviet Union, right there. But they did, one of the things they didn't like about the English translation, they thought it was a little too heavy-handed, a little too direct as far as the politics were concerned. They didn't want to be tagged as a political band. They were more out there for a good time, I guess. The other thing I find interesting that they never had a follow-up hit, though there were other worthy songs in that record.
Yeah.
The last song on the record, it was another single, which is very good, called Leuchtturm. I should have looked up what that means. I don't know.
But yeah, I really like that song.
So when they started touring in the West, now if you watch the video, Nena, she's cute, attractive front woman, but she's wearing a tank top, and like a lot of European women, she's unshaved under the arms. And apparently she caught a lot of flack for that once they were touring in England. And people said the reason they never had a follow-up hit was because she had hairy armpits.
Which seems so unfair because I mean it was totally normal for women in Europe to not shave their armpits
or use deodorant.
Well, they don't know she's not using deodorant unless they're standing right next to her. But what they were seeing was her live performances, and she's always, every live thing I saw, she's wearing a tank top, and she's always got her arms up in the air, and she's dancing around. And it's like, I read that too about the armpit hair, and I'm like, that is just really unfair to her because she even says, I didn't know. No, I had no idea that this wasn't something that was acceptable.
I read those quotes and I just felt sorry for. I mean,
Me too.
Felt like, oh my gosh, what have I done? I've offended these people with my. I had no idea. This is just normal.
She had no idea because that was totally normal. And it also made me feel sad too because when you watch her perform live, she's so exuberant and so just having fun, and she just seems so bubbly and she's just a fun performer. And I think it's just seems unfair.
But again, you contrast it to a band today. She would have been coached to death on stagecraft and dance moves and all this stuff.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case back then. I mean, so again, it's kind of amateurish, kind of awkward, but kind of endearing.
I think it's very endearing. Yeah. And actually, their first single, of course, I can't pronounce it because I'm terrible with pronunciation.
Frau Bodensteiner should really know her German better.
Nur Getrompf, I would say, is how it's pronounced.
Uh-huh.
It's super catchy. It's a really great song, actually. And it kind of reminds me of Kim Wilde in that style. That was their breakthrough single.
She did a record with Kim Wilde, too.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
I can see that. They have a similarity there. But that was their breakthrough single in Germany because they did a video, which was a live performance where she's wearing a tank top and has her arms way up in the air of that song on Musikladen, the German music show. They showed the video. And Musikladen. And I guess the single sold like 40,000 copies the day after that performance and pushed it up to like number 2 on the German charts or something. And that was their breakthrough single because of that performance. And so I think that, like you said, it is amateurish. They just seem like they're having a good time, but there's something very endearing about it. And I think that people really connected with that. And the song, was a good pop song. So that was their breakthrough single. 99 Luftballons is on that same album, and it was released in 83, but I think it was later that it became popular in America. It was still in 83, I guess, but it had already been popular in Germany at that point.
Yeah, both these songs, it took a while for it to cross our shores. So they had a big hit in Germany and Austria and Switzerland before it spread to the UK and then on to the United States. But I just find it interesting, fascinating, really, that the German language version was so much more popular here than the English version. There's a history of foreign language songs in the American charts. The first one, well, actually, you go back even before the Billboard Hot 100, which they started publishing in 58. You go back to like the post-war era, like a lot of the sentimental kind of pop music
Yeah.
coming out in the late 40s, early 50s. After World War II, you had all of these world influences on popular music in America because of all these soldiers that had traveled the world during the war.
Mm-hmm.
But the first big hit song in a foreign language on the Hot 100 was Nel Blu di Pinto de Blue, which most people will not recognize that title. Most people would call the song Volare.
Mm-hmm.
Domenico Modugno had the hit version. Dean Martin had the version that most people think was the hit, but it was this guy, Domenico Modugno, which actually won a Grammy Award that year. And there have been a bunch of foreign, like Guantanamera in the 60s. The Singing Nun, Dominique, which I love that song. It's just a really cool little pop song.
Well, and one of the things that I think that's cool about these songs, these two songs, is that it's the same artist who has the hit in German and English. It's not like covered by someone else, where that probably happened more often too, where someone else would cover it, a US artist or something.
My favorite foreign language song, which could have made our playlist, it would have been in contention, from 1974, Eres Tu by Mocedades. Eres tu. Da, 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 da. You don't remember that song? Oh my God, I love that. Oh, I love that song so much when I was a kid. I still do. And then you had the Macarena, which was just a left field massive hit in the United States. There hadn't been any foreign language hits for a long time. And then it was another 16 years or so after that before there was a foreign language hit. Macarena was 96. And now
there's a lot now.
Now there's tons. Now,
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny.
There's huge artists.
Yeah, Bad Bunny has like a dozen of his own, I think, that have either hit the top of the charts or
Shakira.
Yeah, Shakira's had a few. So it's commonplace now and almost all, in Spanish.
Yeah.
But not all in Spanish. You have BTS, the K-pop. They've actually had some big hits on the U.S. charts, sung in their native language. So it's becoming more commonplace now. But in 1983, to have two foreign language artists have big hits, and then there's a couple other songs that are kind of on the outskirts we'll talk about. This was unusual. This was just kind of unusual for this year.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they sung them both in English, too, is what probably was driving that more. And you would consider Nena and Peter Schilling one-hit wonders in the U.S., even though they had other singles, but none of them were sung in English. But I agree. I like the German version of 99 Luftballons. I think it just feels so much more natural the way she sings it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel as forced. Whereas Peter Schilling, it doesn't sound odd, the way he's singing it, it just flows better or something. I don't know. And maybe because that song does tell a story too. So there is something about knowing the lyrics to that song that adds to it. But I think with Nena, I feel like she could have had more hits. Like there's definitely songs on that album particularly. I listened to her album after that and nothing really stood out to me on that one as much. But on the Nena album, there's at least 2 or 3 other songs on there that I think could have been, not as big probably as 99 Red Balloons, but like they could have been ones that would have grazed the charts.
Yeah, there's songs there. And as honorable as it was for her to push the band concept, she was the star. She deserved a better band than she had. They were only around a few more years after that. They broke up in 86, and she's still well known. She's still recording today. So she was really the show there, as much as she wanted to downplay that. And I think a better band, that could have been a pretty killer album, I think. I mean, it's good, but it's the
I
band.
think the songs are good.
Yeah, the songs are good.
I really like her voice. Certainly live, it would have worked better for her.
Yeah. Now, they were a band. Nena was a band. It was a person, but it was a band. The Peter Schilling song was basically a DIY effort done in the bedroom, essentially. I don't think that's what was eventually released, but nowadays you listen to it, and it certainly could have been somebody on a laptop in a bedroom making that record, and it's a killer. And in the case of this song, the English translation is excellent.
It is, yes. And there's a familiarity to it there because a lot of people know who Major Tom is, David Bowie's character in Space Oddity, the song Space Oddity. And this song just kind of like picks up after the David Bowie song. So I think having that connection, that was already something that Bowie fans already knew and loved. And so having the English translation to the song is important. I think the music is really cool. And I do think that it is a good song, but it would not have had the impact in the US without having the translation. Part of that is the connection to Bowie, but also I think you can actually kind of feel like you're floating out in space with him and you feel like you're taking off, in a spaceship. And actually, a lot of Peter Schilling songs have a connection to space and futuristic. This song, this is definitely one of those songs where it's the chorus.
Oh, gorgeous. And the reverb on the vocals is just, yeah.
The vocals are amazing. The way it does the 4, 3, 2, 1. And then his voice is just like this glorious in the upper stratosphere. And it's so fun to sing this song, to sing the chorus in this song. And it is really beautiful, and it just is like so uplifting. And then, which I think is another reason why I like having the English lyrics in the song, because after it just rises and rises, and then you get to that verse, the last verse, where, across the stratosphere, fear, a final message, give my wife my love, then nothing more. And it's like
dark and mysterious.
Haunting. Yes, dark. Like, what happened to Major Tom? There's no connection anymore. He's gone. And then it goes back up into the I'm coming home. And that last chorus, he's already like way up in the stratosphere. And then it just boosts even higher when he's like, coming home. And oh my God, it's just so glorious. I mean, I feel like it's a really emotional song, and also why I think it needs to have the lyrics for us to understand as well. And the English lyrics are different. I translated the German lyrics.
Oh, Frau Bodensteiner is learning her German.
No, I just used Google. I shouldn't say I translated. Google translated it for me. And okay, so like the English lyrics, basically, Major Tom, his ship malfunctions, he loses contact, he's out there doing some kind of experiments or something in space, which is part of like what Space Oddity is. And then he's like captured, or he just dies, or he's returning home because maybe he's the alien returning back to his home. The German lyrics, there's a subtitle to the song that's completely detached. And there's this one part where they say, hello, Major Tom, can you hear? Do you want to destroy the project this way? And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Huh.
Because they're making it sound like he's doing something to disconnect himself, detach himself. Whereas I always got the impression in the English version that it's like something malfunctions, it is out of his control, and then he's out in space floating around or something. And this makes it sound like he's actually detaching. So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, because it changes the dynamic of the song, I think.
Oh, there's a potential suicide there as well.
Yeah.
Somebody who's had it with planet Earth.
And now he's going home.
Yeah.
This is kind of a deep song.
Yeah.
And I think coupled with the music, with the vocals, with that huge chorus, with the whole rising up and up into this grand finale, that it's kind of an emotional song. And I think that it's part of probably what makes it so enduring. I watched a little clip of him on American Bandstand, and Dick Clark was interviewing him. And he was like, how long have you been speaking English? And he says, oh, about 2 weeks. He's like, what?
I saw that too. I was like, you got to be joking.
Well, he said he learned it in school, but he'd been in America for the last 2 weeks. And so he'd been speaking English there.
He speaks very well.
Yeah, he does. And I was surprised by that too. I'm like, wow, okay. But really, I never thought about the fact that he's not writing the English lyrics. Someone else wrote those lyrics. I'm just wondering how he or Nena felt as far as the differences between the German and the English versions, since those aren't their lyrics, the English lyrics.
Yeah, I think from what I've read, Nena, the band, they're somewhat unsatisfied with the English translation.
Yeah.
I think the English translation, Major Tom, nails it, I think. There's not a clunker line in there.
Nope.
In fact, a lot of the lyrics seem to get the proper terminology. I mean, you really get a sense of somebody who has an understanding of all that's involved in space travel and the science behind it and the technicians involved.
Well, maybe they had some NASA person write the lyrics. Yeah. I don't know.
They just seem to get it all right.
Yeah.
And the whole record's actually pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing on the album the equal of that one song, but the whole record's worth spinning. Now, you pointed out one song in particular that
Yeah, and this is what's interesting too because he did record the entire album. It's called Error in the System in English. And there's one song on there called Let's Play USA. And it's just this bouncy pop song, but it has these scathing lyrics basically insulting a bunch of very stereotypical like US things and
mhm.
like Disneyland, the president, Broadway, uneducated people, guns, pollution. It's just like this barrage of all these things. But it's set to this super poppy, bouncy song. It's just like, oh, wow. I mean, you certainly wouldn't get that message in the German version. The Americans would not get that message in the German version of this song.
So he probably didn't play that song in Texas when he was touring the United States.
No, and I find it interesting too because he had this success in the US. That song was put on the album before Major Tom became a hit in the States, I guess. So I just thought that that was kind of interesting that he certainly didn't hold back on his opinions. But yeah, I think the album is good. Yeah, like you said, there's nothing on it that has the impact that Major Tom does. But I'd say there's one or two songs that could have been hits on that album. There's also a Major Tom part 2 right after Major Tom. It's kind of this cool, dreamy instrumental. It's kind of a neat extension of that song.
This Major Tom character certainly had life. You had the original Bowie song, A Space Oddity from 69. And then you could make a case that Rocket Man by Elton John is kind of a take on that. It's a similar theme.
Yeah, true.
And the production is Gus Dudgeon, Paul Buckmaster of the Stringers, same as on Bowie's song on that record. Then you've got Peter Schilling's Major Tom. And of course, a couple years before that, Bowie referenced the character in Ashes to Ashes.
Ashes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also Plastic Bertrand, which I don't know if you know, say
Sa Plan pour moi. Sure. Yeah. Another foreign language song that made the U.S. just a few years before. But
yep. He did a version of Major Tom in French that came out in 1983. And there's a terrible William Shatner version too. But I love it. I love the song.
Yeah, I like both songs. I probably prefer Major Tom a little bit more to 99 Luftballons.
Yeah.
But loved them both at the time, and I still enjoy them to this day. So those were the two big hits in the United States with German origins, although there's a couple other songs around this time period. You go back a little earlier, and Der Kommissar by After the Fire was a big hit in the United States. It came out earlier. It came out in 82, but it took a while before it started gaining steam on the charts. So it's kind of rising up right around the time that 99 Luftballons is released.
Yeah, it made it to like number 5 in the US charts.
And it would be some time before 99 Luftballons became widely known in the United States. So people would have heard Der Kommissar before that. They may not have known that it was a cover of a German language song by Falco.
Yes.
Who himself would have a number 1 hit with Rock Me Amadeus a few years down the road. A song I couldn't stand at the time.
Oh, that was one of those that was on MTV all the time. And as soon as it came on, I was just like, oh no, because it was really long too. And just went on and on and on. But you know, Der Kommissar, which I love the After the Fire version of that song, actually. And it was very close for me for the playlist. I like the Falco version too. I liked Falco's album. But one thing I discovered, and I didn't know this, there is a song on Laura Branigan's album, Branigan 2, that also came out in 1983 that features the exact same music as Der Kommissar with different lyrics.
Funny how Laura Branigan keeps sneaking into the conversation.
I'm
becoming more and more fascinated with this person.
She is fascinating.
Yes.
Yes. Have you seen her clip on Chips? She guest starred on Chips.
No.
And she was in a band.
No. I get the sense that there's a story to be told with Laura Branigan. I mean, clearly massive vocal talent, a huge voice.
Yeah.
She died pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know a whole lot about her personal life.
She had just such an amazing voice. And
huge voice.
Gloria was huge. And then she had Self-Control after that in 84. I think that came out. And that was a big hit.
Solitaire, another big one. And then if you have not heard her version of The Power of Love, the song most people know by Celine Dion.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You want to talk about cutting loose on a vocal. Holy smokes. She goes for it. Does not hold back.
She's
And
really, really talented. She really
yes.
is. But yeah, I just thought that was so weird when I saw that and I listened to the song. I'm like, oh my God, it is. It's the same exact song. And they just changed the lyrics. And it came out around the same time as the After the Fire version. I mean, hers wasn't a hit.
Yeah, I think that's one that just fell a little short for both of us. Almost on the playlist, not quite.
Almost on the
Yeah.
playlist. Yeah, I do really like it a lot.
And the only German in the lyric is my favorite part of the song. Alles klar, der Kommissar.
Oh.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that line pops up in all three of these songs. Alles klar.
I'm not sure.
It's like, are you sure? Or are you okay? Alles klar.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Well, the one other one I wanted to mention, and it's not necessarily a German artist, although he was based in Hamburg. Taco with Putting on the Ritz. That came out in 83, I think. I would have had that on my mixtape at the time. I don't know how much I'd like that now, but it's kind of hard to pin Taco down. He's actually Dutch, but he was born in Indonesia, had lived all over the world, and he happened to be based in Germany when he recorded this. I think of that song in the same breath that I think of the song from the chess musical, Murray Head.
Oh, One Night in Bangkok?
One Night in Bangkok, yes.
I like that. Way more than Putting on the Ritz.
Yeah, both coming out around the same, both, just kind of hearkening back to the standards of the 20s and Putting on a Ritz was an Irving Berlin song. And fascinatingly enough, Irving Berlin was still alive when that song became a hit. He was 95 years old and was the oldest living songwriter to have a hit in the Billboard Top 40.
Oh, wow.
At 95. Putting on the Ritz was originally, I think, 1929, published in 29. Fred Astaire had the most known hit version of it.
See, that at the time when that song came out, it just kind of felt more like a novelty.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. There is another one from 84, German band.
Yes.
Alphaville.
Yeah, people don't think of them as a German band, but they were. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Big in Japan. And Forever Young.
I want to be forever
I mean, like everybody's prom theme, from that era.
Never a fan of that one.
I like Big in Japan. And I like that album, actually. It's a good album.
Now, we want to get a little further into the weeds with Neue Deutsche Welle because you've gone down that road. And when you read about the scene, the theme that keeps popping up over and over and over and over again is, oh, it was this pure kind of counterculture scene that just got totally corrupted and sold out and all these commercial bands. And so by the time Nena and Peter Schilling come along, the originators of Neue Deutsche Welle had pretty much washed their hands of this. Oh, this is all just commercial product.
And they separate themselves by calling them the original Neue Deutsche Welle. So
ODFW and DFW.
Yeah.
So you have to let us in on your path to discovery here because you've uncovered a lot of gems.
Yeah. Well, I think with the original, especially because that's the stuff that I gravitate to more. And like I said, they were more inspired by the post-punk scene, the no wave scene in New York, kind of a little more avant-garde and more DIY mentality too, which, borrowed from punk. And it was very German as far as like the themes that they were dealing with, which that doesn't transcend for me because I don't understand the language. They were singing in German, not in English. They used German names, their band names, and it was much more based in kind of reality, not like fantasy, more reality lyrics and somewhat confrontational.
And for people who are unaware, popular music in Europe and overseas is most commonly English language songs.
Yeah.
It's that's what dominates the charts worldwide.
Well, yeah. In fact, I looked at the charts. I was looking at the German chart for 1983, the pop chart. Major Tom and 99 Left Balloons are two that were number ones for several weeks. But then it was just like what was happening in the States. Although there were some hits that weren't hits here, like Juliet by Robin Gibb. That's on his solo album from that year, which is a really good song, actually. That was a hit in Europe. So there were songs that were either hits here also, or songs sung in English that were hits not in the US, but in other parts of Europe. Very little of it was actually German. But, we're talking like 1980, 80 to 82, basically. Those bands were really more on the fringe. They weren't popular. They were underground.
Right. Independent labels, small recording budgets, and often, not a ton of musical ability.
Yes and no. I would say just in the same vein that a lot of punk and post-punk bands in the US and in England, some bands were very basic and some had more music ability. And those were more the post-punk bands,
Right.
and they were more artsy and they were more avant-garde. So I think that there's a mix of that, just like there was in the States and in England.
What I found is the songs that stood out for me in the sampling that I took of this scene are the ones that are a little more rhythmically complex.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of the songs are just like, it's just real basic rhythms.
Well, and that's why I'm saying it's kind of like comparing the Ramones to television.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
had the spectrum of that in Germany in the same way. So you did have a bit of the real basic poppy punk stuff, but then you had a lot of the more post punk challenging music. There's a handful of bands that really stood out for me of the originals. Of course, once again, I have to pronounce these names. Palace Schaumburg. They're probably one of the most talked about bands from this era. And they also spawned several artists that went on and did solo projects too. They're definitely post punk, but they have really cool horns and they sound avant garde and jazz influenced and New York no wave influence. I really like them a lot. Holger Hiller was in the band and he went off and did a solo project that was popular. Much more on the avant garde, kind of like Cabaret Voltaire style. So I really like them. Ideal.
Do like them because, again, rhythmically more interesting and a compelling female vocalist.
Female lead singer, which actually several of these bands had female lead singers. But one of the things I liked about Ideal is they also have a male singer that sings lead on several songs. So they kind of go back and forth. And I really like their album that came out in 1982 by New. They kind of run the gamut too, where they have some stuff that's more just kind of really basic sounding. Some of it's dirgy, like post punk. Some of it actually sounds like Nick Hayward and Haircut 100, like that sophisti-pop with more melodic horns. I really liked that album a lot because it had a lot of variety to it.
And that was a really key band in this scene because I think they were one of the first, if not the first, to break through to a wider audience.
Yep. Right now I'm just talking about the ones I really like, but there's other ones that are more influential. Rheingold, their album came out in 1980, and they're definitely post-punk, but they have a power pop sound to them too. And they sound like Neue with Robert Fripp guitars, that motoric drum beat, which is just like pulsing and simple, but it's kind of mellowy and it has this cool, easygoing feel to the vocals. I actually really like that one a lot. And it's definitely one of those that it didn't matter what they were saying. I mean, maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe if I read the lyrics, I'd be like, these are amazing. but just listening to it, it was very enjoyable to listen to the vocals without having any clue at all what they're saying. And I don't know if I would feel the same. I can't say that I've listened to K-pop or that I've listened to Spanish-speaking bands or artists that much, but I feel like there's something about the German language that it just sounds really nice. It blends in so nicely with the music that it doesn't take away from it at all to me. Oh, there's a band from Austria called Grazone. Did you listen to that?
No.
Came out in 1982, kind of a Joy Division meets Bauhaus kind of feel, but a little bit lighter. They have a song called Eisbar that I think is pretty popular. And I really like that song a lot. It has like these weird little Casio keyboard sounds. Oh, and I almost forgot my favorite probably of all of these bands, Trio.
Now, that one folks will know from Da Da Da, which came out in 82, but many people would have picked up on later from a Volkswagen commercial.
Yes, that became very popular later in the 80s. They actually started in 81. There are bands that did cross over then from the originals into the more popular realm, and they were one of those bands that started early but continued their popularity. I just really, really like this band. They're so simple. And that was their point. In fact, the drummer during their live shows, he would eat an apple with his left hand and play the hi-hats and the snare with his right hand because that's how simple it is. But I think that that's what's so endearing about this band. Their biggest hits, which da 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 da. I mean, there's like no lyrics. It's got like this little Casio keyboard solo in it. Another song that I know I've heard before, Boom Boom. It's just like boom, boom, burr, 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 boom, boom. I mean, you can't get any more caveman than that. But I love it. It's so catchy and, they have a humor about them. So, they're not taking themselves too seriously, which just makes it more fun. It's just so stripped down. But a lot of it actually kind of sounds like, I mean, I feel like 90s alt bands had to have been influenced by this band, whether they knew it or not, because there's a lot of stuff that has that feel to it to me. They have 3 albums that are really good, but the album that came out in 1983, it's called Bye Bye. They do a cover of a Yoko Ono song called Wake Up that came out on an album she had in 1982. And it's a really good song. You know, I saw her name that she'd written the song. I'm like, what? What is this song? And I listened to her version and it's okay. But it's a very cool version. And I just really like that they covered this song right around the time that it came out. So now we're getting out of the originals into the more mainstream and pop oriented.
Well, one of the originals I definitely remember hearing, not when it came out, but in college later on, was the DAF, their Mussolini.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And they were very popular and very influential. And that's one of the bands that I was referring to where I said I didn't necessarily like it that much, but it's really influential.
Are you going to pronounce the full name of the band for us?
Deutsche Amerikanische
Freundschaft.
Which means German American friendship.
Yes. Very nice.
They started out in 80. Their first album came out in 80, and they were very avant-garde initially. And they were part of that more industrial vein. Like, can you say the...
Einstürzende Neubauten.
Yes, that's it. Like that band, which did become more well-known in the States in those circles, you know, people that like that type of music. So yeah, they definitely started out more industrial, confrontational. I'm not really a fan, but they are interesting. They started out as a 5-piece there originally, and then they scaled down to 2 guys, and they're the ones that you see on the album covers that always look very like, you know, they're shirtless and they're all buff and they look like they're really into each other. And like, you know, they had an album that came out in 81 that I like better. And they then became really simplistic synth rhythms, really simple drums. They have live drums. One of the 2 guys is a drummer. And so he's playing live drums. The thing I don't really care for about their music is the vocals. It's more like talking, kind of grunting. Like a lot of it's just like, rah, rah, you know? And sometimes it's like really confrontational and just, it's very simple. Although I will say it kind of did grow on me a little bit. And the more I listened to their stuff that came out more like in 81, I like that stuff a little bit more, but it's just not melodic.
Yeah.
It's like Caveman, but not in a good way, like Trio. And actually, the other one that is one I didn't really care for, but I remember hearing about at the time was Nina Hagen. I remember seeing her videos sometimes on MTV, and she's very confrontational, more like a Yoko Ono style, and just the screeches, you know, really noisy vocals. And I couldn't get into that. But she had an album that came out in 83, actually, that was produced by Giorgio Moroder, and she sings in English. I kind of like that one. Some of it is sort of like rapping, and definitely she's singing more than like wailing and screeching. And it's more like a dance album. It's more accessible.
Well, you should mention as well, her former band split off and was one of your favorites from this scene.
Yes. So her first 2 albums were with her band. They recorded 2 albums with her, and then they were apparently disgruntled because they just felt like she was kind of a tyrant and they didn't like working with her. So they left and they formed their own band called Spliff, which I think they have a song called Spliff on one of their first couple of Nina Hagen albums. Spliff. And oh my gosh, I love this band. And they're really strange actually, because their first album that came out in 1980, it's called The Spliff Radio Show. It's all sung in English, which was surprising to me because that was their first album. And then every album from there on is sung in German, but it's a rock opera and it's centered around like the music business and a fictional rock star who's probably Nina Hagen. But it has like jingles in it, like the Who Sellout, the album Sellout, where they make these fake commercial jingles. Well, they did that too in this album. And I thought it was really cool. It's kind of like Frank Zappa meets the Police and Clark Kent, which is Stuart Copeland's alter ego band. But I thought it was really cool. I liked them. But then they went on to become more of like a synth pop band. And they had 2 albums that came out in 1982 that I really like. And they kind of remind me of, nobody knows him, but my man, Chaz Jankel from the Blockheads, who I've talked about a few times. I just love this guy. Super funky, like groovy rhythms. And they do a lot of that kind of stuff. They actually did have a hit that was an international hit. It wasn't a hit in the US, but it was basically a hit everywhere else, called Carbona. It sounds nothing like any of their other stuff, but it kind of has like a reggae beat and it doesn't sound like any of their other stuff. So I don't like that song actually, but it was a big hit for them. So yeah, love Spliff, not so much Nina Hagen. And then there was another really big, huge, massive German hit by Joachim Witt. No, Joachim Witt.
Joachim Witt.
Ah, thought I had it. Joachim Witt, called Goldener Reiter. Is that right?
Sure.
Super catchy, simple pop song. That was like a massive German hit, and I do really like that song. And then there's another band called Hubert K, which had several albums out, but their 1982 album, Ich Komm, super catchy synth pop. And that one kind of sounds more like the Cars or even like Huey Lewis and the News sometimes.
Yeah, I heard a track on a Neue Deutsche compilation that grabbed me, and that's worth further investigation, certainly.
Yeah, they have a couple albums in it, but I really like that one from 82.
And that's a band I'd actually heard of before.
Me too. Yeah, I was like, I know I've heard that name before. Yeah. And I don't know if maybe they had a song that was on, it might have been like a Night Flight or one of those music video shows that was a little more like edgy. But yeah, they sound familiar to me too. Anyway, you know what? I listened to a bunch more stuff too, but like you were a little overwhelmed, right? When you started delving into this.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of music that came out at this time in this genre. And I would say that like 90% of the stuff that I listened to, I wanted to know more. I went back and listened to entire albums. I was that intrigued, which I think says a lot. And I didn't really go into the more popular poppy stuff as it went later on into the 83 and beyond. And really, this stuff pretty much stops at like 1983, maybe into 84. Because now it really starts to push more into what we get with Falco and Rock Me Amadeus and that type, which is straying away from the more even new wave sound. It's getting way more into the pop realm.
Yeah.
Or like what Peter Schilling was doing in 1989 with that song that sounds just like New Order, True Faith. You know, like it was getting way more in that dance pop realm.
Yeah. At its heart, at its beginning, it was very much a DIY scene, fairly amateur bands on shoestring budgets, independent labels, operating outside the corporations, kind of a response to the culture. And if you're a German at this time, you're dealing not only with the specter of Nazism, which would have been your parents' generation, these people who were recording at this time. That's that close.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
But not only that, it's a response to the leftist movement in Germany after Nazism, which in the late 60s, early 70s. And there was a lot of violence in Europe at this time. Leftist violence, Baader-Meinhof gang, Red Army faction, causing a lot of problems in that country. So it's kind of a rebellion against both sides of the political spectrum in a way. I mean, it's just people trying to set themselves apart and create a new German subculture. A word that popped up, and I read it, somebody had written a master's thesis on the scene that's posted online. And there's a key word in reference to this scene, Anderssein, the German word, which means otherness. It's just people trying to set themselves apart from the mainstream culture in both fashion and music and the way they live their lives. And that was just kind of a key word around this scene. But like any other scene, once it becomes popular, the money moves in and everything gets diluted.
And, you know, somebody we didn't mention who really doesn't necessarily fall under this, but does fall under the definition of that word you just said is Klaus Nomi.
Right. I was going to bring him up. Now, he had relocated to the U.S. years before.
Yeah.
But, a German native and kind of an icon of the new wave scene. Memorable bit in Urga Music War. Certainly, that's where I first saw him, I think. And I was like, what is this? Oh, my God. He had a 6-octave vocal range.
Yeah.
Insane.
Also was a backup singer for David Bowie on SNL in 1979. And in that performance, Bowie's wearing that plastic suit thing. The Klaus Nomi and the other backup singer have to pick him up and set him on stage with it. Then after that, he was on Erga Music, where wearing that same, he had one commissioned for him. It was this plastic like tuxedo. That's what he's wearing there. And what you see him wearing on the album covers, it's kind of his iconic look. But such a unusual person and voice. I mean, yeah, that vocal range. And actually was one of the first known figures from the artist community to die of AIDS.
Yeah, before Rock Hudson. Obviously, not as many people were familiar with him as Rock Hudson,
No.
but he was, his own way a celebrity.
Yeah, in
Right.
the artist community.
Sure.
But yeah, just a very interesting character. When you said music and fashion and art, he definitely falls under all of those.
So yeah, it's an interesting little scene, and you've found that there's a lot more under the surface to be discovered than these two songs that happen to randomly cross over into the U.S. charts.
Yeah, in fact, I think that this movement and, what was coming out at this time, and then so much is influenced by what was happening in America with post-punk and in England with punk, but I feel like there's music that I've heard that is just as important and listenable and stuff that I want to go back to as albums that were coming out in New York in the late 70s. They were just a few years behind, it took them a couple years to catch up to it, but I think a lot of it is just as good. And between this and all the metal I listened to before this, I've spent the last month way deep into genres I've never been in before. So it's been fun.
Well, yeah, and the common denominator there, bridging the gap, is the Scorpions, who had a glam metal,
true.
one of the best metal hits later on in the year. So that's our tribute to German New Wave. Nena's 99, Neue Luftballons, and Peter Schilling's Major Tom Coming Home, adding to our playlist this week. Now, we'll get back to a normal show next time, and we're going to talk about a song from an iconic 80s movie that is a global hit this year. Cheryl will grit her teeth as I talk about this song. Another band we'll be talking about down the road has a German-sounding name, but they are one of the original New Romantic bands in England. That's something we got coming up later on. One of the most popular bands from Scotland during this era will pop up very soon. Cheryl's going to be talking about one of her favorite songs from this year,
which I think also may be my album of the year.
Oh, okay. All right. Lots more to come from 1983. We're still early on in the year. I think both these songs were released in March of 83. So we're still in the early part of the year as we take our tour through the musical year 1983. But we've got more coming the next time we join you on Matt and Cheryl's Gen Excellent playlist. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Matt.
I'm Cheryl.
Take care, everybody.